Hello, everyone, and welcome back to K All. I'm your host, Angel, and today we are joined by a true musical powerhouse. She's a Tony Award-winning actress known for her originating role as Kim in Miss Saigon. She made history as the first Asian actress to play Eponine in Les Misérables on Broadway, returned as Fantine in the 2006 revival, and continued that lifelong love affair as Madame Thénardier in Les Mis The World Tour Spectacular. Millions know and love her as the legendary singing voice behind both Princess Jasmine and Mulan, roles that earned her the official Disney Legend status. And on top of having perfect pitch, she's also a proud member of the BTS ARMY. Please give it up for the timeless talent with one of the most crystal clear voices on the planet, Lea Salonga. Woo!
Hi, Angel. It's nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
It's truly an honor. And I want to congratulate you kind of kicking off the show because you are the first Filipina to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm still in a bit of disbelief with regards to all that. I think it's going to be a while before I'm able to feel like, oh my God, it actually is here. I mean, the ceremony is going to happen in early September. So the weather in Los Angeles should be nice and cool, I hope. But, the weather there is always nice anyway. So I just hoping it doesn't rain because that would be such a bummer if it would happen on that day.
Yeah, hopefully that won't happen. I'm sure it'll be a sunny, beautiful day for you. And it's very exciting. I'm manifesting you have good weather that day.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, you're welcome. And I'm kind of wondering, because since theater shows eventually come to a close, what does having this permanent physical footprint in stone mean to you?
My gosh. This seems to be such a huge tradition in Hollywood that there are so many incredible actors, actresses, producers that have had their names on that sidewalk. And I get to join people like Bernadette Peters, who is also a friend of mine. And I think Carol Burnett is on there. Idina Menzel is on there. I think it just means that in some small way, you've been able to leave a mark on the industry. And I think it was also folks who are part of the industry, I think, that got to nominate me, especially those in the Filipino-American community. So I'm just so grateful that they said, okay, I think she should get it. And my manager, Josh, just said where the star was going to be. So yeah, it just kind of blew my mind. I don't know if I'm supposed to announce the location yet, so I'll wait for the official one. But when he told me, I lost my mind. So it's it'll be an appropriate place, I think.
I'm sure it is. I'm so excited for you. So it's just beautiful. You're very welcome. And kind of going back in your career, because when you were just 17 years old, you were leaving Manila for London to become Kim in Miss Saigon. And then you ended up winning the Olivier. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. And also the Tony, all by the age of 20. I'm very curious. Did you feel the historic weight of being the first Asian actress winning a Tony, or were you just trying to survive multiple shows a week at such a young age?
I think when you're that young, especially in London, I think I was just trying to not be overwhelmed by the responsibility as well as by doing 8 shows a week, which is something that I had never done. And I'm thankful that production reduced my workload, recognizing that I was so young and that if I pushed myself way too hard, that it could cause permanent damage to my instrument. And I think it's something that I was grateful having, a team that even though they belatedly realized it, that it's like, okay, this is a kid. We got to remember this is a kid and this is a lot. This is a huge responsibility. And so as I got older, I was much more knowledgeable with regards to what my body could realistically handle as far as that role. But my mindset as far as all of that was take it a show at a time, get to the end of the night, then get to the end of the week, and then do it all over again until your contract is up, and then head back to the Philippines and just resume your life. That clearly did not happen. As from my run in the UK, I headed to New York and started my run there. And this adventure called life just continued. I was lucky that I had my mom with me, she buttressed a lot of the weight. So there was a lot of the responsibility that she handled on my behalf because she recognized that I was so young. And this was a massive responsibility to place upon the shoulders of somebody who was 18 and then later on 20. So she was like, I need to advocate for my child. And thus, I realistically know what she's able to do, what she's unable to do. And so she navigated so much of that alongside me. And I don't think I would have survived if she wasn't there, which blows my mind when I hear stories say of somebody like Jungkook, if I'm going to pivot to that, who was around 13 or 14 when he started training. And I'm like, I could not imagine being that young, but he was also incredibly lucky given what happens in this industry. He was incredibly lucky that he was cared for by these other six exceptional young men.
Yeah. That was a actually brilliant pivot you just made because my next question kind of goes directly into that. As a fellow ARMY myself, I couldn't help but notice a very serendipitous connection that you became Kim in Miss Saigon at 17. And your bias, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim Taehyung, he debuted at 17.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So knowing what it takes mentally and physically to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, as Jungkook would say.
As Jungkook would say.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, how does watching his and BTS's growth from teenagers to these global icons resonate with you?
Yeah, sometimes I can't help but make those comparisons. But the thing also that makes him my bias, I think my personality is a little more like Jungkook, which is why it's like, he's not exactly my bias, but the bias is more like the guy you want to be and the guy that you will hopefully, whose qualities you will be one day be able to embody. Hopefully. The thing about V, I think that worked to his advantage is his unpredictability, as well as his heart and as well as his integrity and his just emotional honesty. And it comes out in their music videos or in any project where he has to act, because that is something you can't fake. As for how he was able to carry all of that, and I think a lot of it has to do with being able to share the labor with 6 other people. So in that case, he was lucky. And I got to share the labor when I was in Miss Saigon with a lot of other Filipino actors and actresses that flew from the Philippines to be part of this massive endeavor in a country that we really didn't know, where we were strangers, where we had to deal with I wouldn't say language barrier because we were all fluent in English, but a cultural barrier and learning how to code switch just to be able to be understood in a taxi cab, for example, and adapting to a country that just felt very foreign, a lifestyle that I don't think any of us was really, really prepared for. And I think it took a lot of adjustment for a lot of us. And I would say that for them, the minute the train left the station and it just left at full speed. And yeah, I'm just hoping that along the way they've been able to stop, not just so much to smell the roses, but to recover. Clearly, we're seeing them enjoying themselves on this current tour, which makes me, as a fan, feel, oh, good, they're okay. And I think, I think it's something that one hopes for them, that they're able to just enjoy this crazy ride, because it is a crazy ride.
Absolutely. It is. It's an insane ride. And kind of going into the tour, before we get there, I'm curious because since falling down the ARMY rabbit hole during the pandemic, was the 2026 ARIRANG show in Busan your first time seeing them live?
Yes, it was my first time. I went with 2 of my girlfriends, both of whom are major Jungkook biases. So I was the lone V bias and they were Jungkook biases. We all had met in person because I was a coach on the Philippines version of The Voice. The husband of one of my girlfriends was a contestant.
No way.
Yeah, he was a contestant. And I told him flat out, when I had met his wife and her best friend, I told him flat out, doesn't matter how well you do in this show, I'm keeping your wife. So he's like, I get it. And so the 3 of us, I think I might have been the first out of the 3 to fall into the rabbit hole. But once they fell, they sped faster than me at learning everything, we were all just consuming so much content. over the pandemic. And it truly kept us from going crazy in the isolation and separation of it all. So when the three of us had planned this Busan trip way, way, way before the Busan trip happened. So we planned hotels, we planned flights. Even before we got our tickets, we made sure that all of that other stuff was already handled. Somebody handled also logistics for certain pilgrimages, going, doing the touristy thing or scoping out restaurants. And then the other one, she handled the giveaways. So I have to give her full credit. Her name is Michelle Alejandro, and the organizer is Regina Calpo, and I was the person providing good vibes to as many people as I could. So Michelle handled my giveaways, and so I swiped red lipstick on my face, wore my concert outfit, and then just proceeded to very, very happily give people stuff. And
so cute.
It was the best. It was so much fun. And yeah, it's incredible how friendly everybody was in Busan. There was a whole lot that we had to kind of face. And I think everybody at every turn, had their own challenges to figuring out which gate to enter, figuring out what entrance to. Yeah, it was nuts. It was just nuts. It is trauma, but I think however many tens of thousands of people, I think everybody is trauma bonded for life now because of the craziness, but it was 2 gorgeous days and it was worth it. Once you see the concert and watch them in person, and then you look up at the screens, and then you look at these tiny, tiny figures, because I was in the bleachers. So the tiny, tiny figures on stage, and then you look at the screens, which I think saved all of our lives. The impact it's like, okay. And your heart just races throughout this concert. And I was also trying to absorb stuff that I could learn as a performer, and watching production and watching which way do these cameras move. And on the second day, I happened to be where the dancers were preparing for swim. So I found myself watching them and seeing them, sit in that backstage, not a backstage area, but it's like right near the ramp where they would go in, which was a different ramp from where the guy with the torch would run. So I got a really great view of them, and then watched them as they had the big sheets and taking all of those on stage. And so I was like, well, this is cool that my attention actually went away from BTS and to the dancers as they were preparing. I figured I've seen this concert in a few ways already, so my attention was going to find itself drifting to something else that also I think merited some attention. And those dancers are just incredible.
They are. They really are. It's incredible that you got to witness all those little technical production aspects as you were watching the concert right in front of you. It's really wonderful. Right. And even having like the higher up seats, you really get a full view of everything going on that 360 stage. It's remarkable.
It's remarkable. I was in a different seat, but from a similar distance. So my perspective was a little different, where I was more in the center and really could see like everything pretty much even. But on the second day, I think it was a little bit slightly obstructed view, but it was still a great show. I was able to get some really cool video whenever some of the members would come to the ramp that I happened to be overlooking. So it was a fantastic show, but because it was in Busan, everything was in Korean, so there's very little that I could understand. So I have tickets to a couple of the shows in the US. So I'll be able to listen to the speeches and introductions in English and be able to, I think, absorb even more. But my gosh, being there for Festa was just
one of a kind experience. It was like once in a lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know that I'll ever get to another Festa again to save myself from trauma, because it's a lot. But I'm glad to have gone at least once.
Absolutely. And especially for their comeback Festa. That's so special to be able to witness ARIRANG. Yeah, to witness that live. I'm really wondering, what was your favorite songs when the album first came out? Because I know you watched the Netflix comeback live and everything.
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did as I was preparing for my own concert in Singapore.
Which is amazing.
My manager, my makeup artist. The minute the show ended, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my gown on and I'm going to march and do my own show. But I think it was the perfect thing to do because then it got all of us like really hyped up and, you know, yeah, because it was a I wouldn't say it was a tough concert weekend, but it's 4 shows back to back. So it's a lot. And, you know, for a solo artist, it was quite a bit. So it was nice to be able to get to see that. And all of us were just so inspired and like, okay, we're ready. We can do our own show and we'll have a good time. And I think I also had some friends in the audience, so that was really cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. So I think at the beginning, I found myself gravitating towards normal. I think that might have been the first song that I found myself like, oh my gosh, there's something here. And then I would look for the lyrics and then be like, oh God, there's stuff that I can actually relate to. Not the specifics, I guess, if we were to take any of that literally, but there is a lot in the song that when I look at my own life, it's like, yeah, it just felt like something I could absolutely relate to. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of ARMY that I'm sure that there are quite a bit of ARMY who are also performers, especially performers who are young, who understand all too well what that song means. And it's going to mean something a little bit different to every performer that gets to listen to that song. But yeah, I think that might have been the first one. And of course, because my bias was on the writing team of it, Into the Sun. And
yes.
Yeah. Oh.
So good.
Yeah, and I was reading, I think, like the Rolling Stone article of how that song just came to be. I think it was a particularly tough or slow day at the songwriting camp. And so I think he's just started jamming with a couple of the other songwriters. And that was kind of the genesis of that. I'm like, yeah, of course it's going to be the old fashioned guy who, when somebody gets to a guitar, somebody's going to get on the drum, somebody's going to get on the thing. And in the way that folks did before any of the synthesized music existed. This is how people would come together to write songs. So I'm glad that there was that. I'm glad that happened in that way, in such an organic, free way that I don't think even they expected would happen.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the songwriting camps that they were a part of, where so many pieces were done prior to them arriving. I think that was such a special moment to have the production, the songwriting, the vocals all kind of happen.
It's like fate. Almost bringing these particular pieces together at that exact moment and for them to create the song in that way. It just made me feel, oh my gosh. So this way of creating art it's not dead yet.
No, it's not.
It's still around
and well.
and it's alive and well, even with, this pop group who have written things starting with beats and producing stuff in that way that this 19th, 20th century way of writing a song still made it. And it's the end of the show. It's the end of the album. And so when it happens live and in the concert, it's a special piece of music.
It really is.
But now
absolutely.
it's like the entire album is on repeat. It takes a minute to become accustomed to the first half of the album because I am someone in my 50s and it's not necessarily the most organic thing for me to immediately latch on to that kind of heavy hitting hip hop because I was raised on different kinds of music. But the more I listen, the more I play it, it's like this album is just genuinely good. It's really, really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's spectacular. One of my favorite tracks is Aliens. I'm just a big fan of the production and the lyrics. There's a lot to dissect there.
Absolutely. And how they are just so bracingly honest and even critical with regards to their lyric. I'm just so happy for them that I think they feel this freedom to be able to, I guess, tell the truth about who they are and how they exist and how they move around in the world. I mean, they're extremely polite, in interviews, but you got to watch out for the really, really polite ones because,
yes,
they've got something to say. Yeah, it comes out in the art. So you got to watch for the art.
Absolutely. And the art is there. So going back to the Busan show, to actually hearing them live, I'm curious, as someone with perfect pitch who has spent decades maintaining pristine vocal placement, genuinely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have the most clear voice I think I've ever heard. Like, genuinely stunning. Salt on my tongue, she's stunning,
Thank you.
as Swim would say. So I'm kind of curious. When you were listening to BTS's live vocals, how was that for you, hearing it in the open air stadium setting? What did you notice about the vocalists specifically? Who stood out to you with their breath control?
I think Jungkook is the GOAT. He is, I think, among the vocalists. And I have spoken to other people that have worked with him ever since his debut. And this one music director said, because I was remarking on how this kid's pitch is just ridiculously unreal. He said he's been that way. He's always been that way since the very beginning. It's like he swallowed a stack of CDs, and he is consistently like that. But I think the one whose vocals are the most striking for me, I think it's V. And I think I would say most improved over time. And it's because it isn't just that he can hit the notes or that he can, get to this point. It's just like the singing seems to have gotten easier for him over time. And I think especially now that he's much more physically fit, it's one of those things that I think even he is feeling like this is so much easier for me now. But beyond the skill, it's the tone. There's this tone that he has. It isn't just that he's the lone baritone in the vocal line, because Jungkook can actually also go down there, but his is that warm tone. And it's like he lives in that warmth. I think it's exciting when he hits a high note because it's so unexpected. Even for Broadway people, when you hear a baritone singing a tenor line, there is an excitement that goes with that. So I think it's a similar thing happening. There's an excitement to it. You hear a baritone sing a tenor line, it's like, oh my God, there's something to that, especially when it's paired with something that's really, really emotional. Say something like a Chris and Miss Saigon. They've cast it with tenors, they've cast it with baritones. I've personally found it most exciting when it's a baritone in that role, because then when you see some of the songs that are much more emotionally charged being performed, it's like you can feel the effort in the singing also affect the emotion. Because for a tenor, hitting a high note is not going to be a big deal because it's in the voice and it's not going to require a lot of effort. But when it's a baritone and when you see that there is effort in it, you kind of find yourself, hoping and praying that he gets there. And of course he does. It's a really exciting thing hearing V live. Yeah.
Good answer. Very good answer. I mean, I agree fully with you. I think he has such a soulful voice. And in songs like Stigma, going way back, I love when he brings out that higher register.
Yeah,
right?
It's exciting. And,
it is.
Even he doesn't know how it's going to happen or if he's going to hit it. And I think they're open about having the pre-records and the backing vocals there. But it's such an exciting moment even when it's a breathy high note, it's still really exciting to hear.
Definitely. It still touches your soul. It really hits you in the feels.
Yeah.
And something else incredible about you is that you have been singing on tabletops since you were 3 and performing professionally since the age of 7. But as I mentioned before, what amazes me is your clarity, not only in your voice, but in your words, in the way that you speak, the conviction that you wield, the humility that you showcased throughout all of your interviews, whether you were 17 years old on press tours to right now as this truly seasoned talent. And that whole atmosphere that you represent, it reminds me a lot of Kim Namjoon and his lyrics in Wildflower when he says over.
That is a compliment. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth.
I just finished watching Fashion Neurosis. It is an interview I would highly recommend.
Yes.
Any ARMY. This is irrespective of bias. You have to watch him on this couch and you have to watch him speak. I was like, why am I fascinated by watching this guy clad in head to toe denim, lying on a couch and just talking? It's his register when he speaks, it's the intelligence, it's the clarity, it's all of those things. There's something in his interviews and even watching him search for the right word. This is not even his first language, and yet he speaks with knowledge and eloquence, and every word is intentional. Sometimes I tend to talk first, think later, which has led me to a few mishaps in interviews. But this happened much more when I was younger. He seems to put so much thought and intention with the words he will say, fully conscious of the fact that millions of people are going to be seeing it. That's not even hyperbole. Millions of people are going to see it. So he has to take very good care, as he's not just representing himself. He's representing 6 other young men. I don't know that he's the leader anymore so much in the way that he was as a younger person. And he does mention that he was bossy when he was younger. But now that everyone has, as he said, now everyone has grown up so much. They all have very unique senses of taste and aesthetics. This is what this one likes. This is what this other one likes. And we can see how their personalities have formed over the years. And if you start watching older content, you can really, really track that trajectory. And it's so much fun to watch and to catch up on what folks who were fans since 2013 have known this entire time. I love that he speaks with such clarity and intelligence and still so much curiosity, that he still has so many questions. He was mentioning Stendhal syndrome, that this big reaction to a piece of art. And he had mentioned Surratt, and that dovetails into Sunday in the Park with George. And I think any Sondheim fan, any Broadway fan would know exactly who George Surratt is because of Mandy Patinkin and Bernadette Peters originating Surratt, George, and Dot on Broadway. When he was talking about that particular painting, when he and Taehyung headed to the Institute of Art, I think it was in Chicago, that is where the Surratt painting is displayed. They were in the soup and they were talking about it, and he wanted to create a painting using that similar technique. I'm like, no, you're not going to do the pointillism thing right now, are you?
Yes.
No, Namjoon. This is going to take over your life.
And it did.
This is ridiculous. Meanwhile, here is Jungkook pumping out how many paintings in the same amount?
Forming a masterpiece right behind him. It was hysterical, the juxtaposition of the two of them.
It was hysterical to watch it. It was like, oh, here he is, he's kneeling down in the way that he kneels down, and then he's just creating this thing, but he's also so artistically inclined that, of course, it's not going to take that much time. I just thought it was hilarious just watching it happen.
No, it was beautiful. It's peak cinema, just watching that unfold. And I feel like it reflects both of their personalities perfectly. Because you see Namjoon, he's giving it his everything, taking each point so purposefully, as you mentioned about the way he takes his time with his words. Same way with his painting. And then Jungkook, he doesn't have to think about it. It just flows through him. But it's different levels of artistry.
Here it is. And I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But to reference Surratt, I think I took quite a few screenshots because I was watching it on my laptop, and my ears really perked up because I know what Surratt painting he's referring to, as well as also the musical that was created around it. And the most recent revival of that show that I got to see was starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Annalee Ashford. And I thought, this is perfection on Broadway. This is incredible.
It's amazing. I love that. And going back to what I was saying before about his song Wildflower RM, he has a lyric where it says, "Over my status is an oversized life." And I feel like that connects to what you were saying about normal and how you relate that to your own life. So I'm curious, what keeps your feet on the ground, even in those overwhelming magic carpet ride moments of life that try to sweep you away?
I think it helps that I am surrounded by a really amazing group of friends, because the way we speak to each other and the way we reference art, and a lot of my friends are also artists in their own way. The one friend that I went with who took care of all of the giveaways, she's a writer, and her daughter is also an actor and also a singer. And then there's one who I think she owns a bake shop. I have to check if she still does. I think each one of us, in a way, is a creative individual. One of my best friends here in the city is a writer, a director, and an actor. And his first huge artistic output was in the world of dance. And my own manager, his husband, is a Juilliard trained singer who is an Emmy winner for writing fiction for television. And my own brother's a musician. My sister-in-law is a musician. My son is an actor and a singer. So I am surrounded by people that keep it real, but keep it a lot of fun. because in one way or another, everyone is creative and everyone's an artist, or at least is an appreciator of really good art. Yeah.
So you're able to inspire each other.
Yeah. Yes, we really do. I think we feed off of each other's energy. We fill one another's lives with joy. I mean, obviously, we'll have moments where, one of us is going through something, like a death in the family, or whatever. And all of the girls will come together and be like, we're going to kidnap you now and take you away from this sad, sad wake. And we're just going to go have fun. We're going to go have dinner. We're going to do something where it's like, we're just going to have a good time so that even for an hour, you'll be able to forget. And so we've done this a few times, we're going to kidnap you. We're going to take you away, give you a little relief, and then bring you back. I'm really lucky. I don't have a whole lot of friends, but I'm super grateful for the ones that I do have.
That's beautiful. They're like your members in some ways because they're your close-knit circle.
Right. And of course, my family. Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, since you mentioned In the Soup before as one of your favorite BTS contents that you watched during the pandemic, I'm curious what other non-musical contents from BTS are your go-tos?
I don't know how many episodes of Run BTS I saw. There's a lot, obviously, that I haven't seen, but I most recently saw the one at the water park.
Classic.
Oh,
so good.
Yeah, with Suga wrapped in towels from head to toe. And then, then you hear about he's not with us because he's still feeling the effects of this thing. And so he's taking a nap. And I'm like, man, I am so glad that they did not wait for this guy to wake up because this is funnier and so relatable that you got, sick riding this boat at this speed or being propelled into the air and required to strike a pose. I think that was hilarious. And of course, the whole Jungkook versus everybody and Jungkook practically winning against everyone. And everyone is just so, very gingerly navigating these really slippery, these floating, whatever that you call them. And here he is just running. I'm like, look at this guy. This is ridiculous. Look at this guy. And it's hilarious watching one whole group of grown men against this teenager. And at the time, I think he was still a teenager.
Yep. And he's just crushing it.
It's so funny. And then watching the episodes where they're cooking. And then it's like, it didn't matter that the two actual cooks are in the kitchen cooking because they are being led by people that don't cook, except for Jungkook. It's really funny. I'm like, okay, who is going to actually win this challenge? And it was a lot. It made me laugh so much.
Yeah, that makes me happy. It's so important to have those things that bring you such joy. And I feel like BTS's content, it's just a treasure trove of it. You could really dive in your darkest moments, and there's something there for you.
There is always something. And I think that's what got my other two friends into the fandom. I think it was not just the music. I think once they started consuming the non-musical stuff or, watching Jungkook, who has said that he's been diagnosed with ADHD, and the son of my one friend has ADHD and my own kid has ADHD. So for us, it's like, let's see how his ADHD manifests. Let's see what his coping mechanisms are. And I'm like, why is he still so delightful, even as he's stimming on screen? And it makes so many young people who have this feel seen and validated. That he's very upfront and honest about it. And we see the spacing out, we see his behavior. And so those of us that have close family members or friends that also do have it, it's like, and there it is. And we move on.
Exactly. And it's beautiful because he gives so many people kind of validation and just representation, a way to kind of feel understood, feel heard just by him simply existing. I am still, just like his film. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I do wonder if there is just a little hint of him being unable to be still, and meaning unmoving, that there's a part of that title because he does have ADHD. If the title I Am Still actually kind of plays off of that, and that he's unable to actually sit still. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder
That's
now.
very fascinating. Yeah. That's really interesting to think about because I guess the I am still, it doesn't just mean still as being still. It could be I am still here.
This person. Yeah,
still this
I am.
person. I am who I am. I'm going to own that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting to think about. Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
Going back, though, into your incredible roles, something I wanted to speak about is that your role as Eponine is truly remarkable and revolutionary. And one of my favorite performances you did is the 10th
Thank you.
anniversary rendition of On My Own. You're so welcome. It's just beautiful. Can you walk us through that 10th anniversary memory and moment?
Okay. It's a throwback. And I remember how young I was. I remember a lot of that week. I just remember that role is a whole lot of different parts. There's the first thing that comes out of my mouth, which is called In My Life, where Judy Kuhn starts it. And if anybody doesn't know, Judy Kuhn is also the singing voice of Pocahontas. So that's another Disney princess
Love
right
it.
there.
Always
And we got to
connecting.
share the stage so much. Yeah. And her voice for me is one of the most perfect, to this day, perfect voices. I recently saw her in a production of The Baker's Wife, and I'm like, and there she is. But going back to the 10th anniversary, there were a whole bunch of days in that week-long rehearsal process where there were points that I was like, I am so messing up on this. I had to go see my voice teacher just to help me through. And this is a role I had played before. And I'm like, why am I messing this up? I'm so glad that I did call her and that I did get in touch with her, because I was stressing out over this one line. And it was just one of those things that was weighing so heavily on me. So she was checking how I was doing it and why I was running out of steam when I got to this part of the song. And then she was basically opening my eyes and the rest of me, obviously, to how to bridge all of that. And so she came to our final dress rehearsal just to provide feedback. And so by the time I got to On My Own, which, no pressure, is the first song out of the gate in the second half, I had sung this song by then hundreds of times. And I have a history with this song. It was the song I auditioned for Miss Saigon with. And I had sung it in concert quite a few times, but to sing it, playing a role at the 10th anniversary, which at the time was a major milestone because not a lot of shows last 10 years, and that this was being recorded. And it was a huge moment. And I will tie this into Kim Taehyung in a minute because this is today. So it was an opportunity to meet a very specific moment, and having been the first of who I am and what I am to get to play this, it's like, I need to nail this song. And that was, I think, a lot of pressure that I was putting on myself. But one moment that I do remember, on the day of the show, one of the associate directors, his name is Swan, asked me a question. He said, have you ever been to the very top of the theater of the Royal Albert Hall? I said, no, I've never been all the way up there. I said, why? It's like, when you have the time today, climb all the way up there. It'll give you perspective. And I said, okay. So there was a moment during dinner, like after dinner break, I climbed all the way up. And what I recognized was how tiny that stage was looking from all the way up there, and how the actors and the audience, it was like there wasn't anyone more important. I was like, oh my God, this is a very different perspective compared to when you're sitting on the stage getting ready to sing, or when you're on the floor watching the performers. So when you're all the way up in the back, it's all of a sudden this eagle-eye view. It makes everyone look equally important. This is a really interesting perspective to see this hall from. I went back downstairs. I got all my steps because it's quite an effort to get all the way up there. I went back down and I went backstage and I started getting ready and made sure I was warmed up. I had to place so much trust in myself in order to meet this moment as a 24-year-old performer. And so I watched the World Cup on Sunday. And of course, I was excited. I tuned in just to see BTS, but then I also got to see Madonna, and I was excited to see Shakira and Gustavo Dudamel conducting. I'm like, when else am I going to see a classical conductor who now heads the New York Philharmonic on the pitch at the halftime show doing his thing? It was, when I saw his name announced, I'm like, what's he going to do? And then I saw it. I'm like, okay. So how this relates to Kim Taehyung, because, he's singing a part of the song that normally doesn't belong to him. And I was like bracing, on my couch. I'm like, this kid, he met the moment. He's 30 years old, but I'll call him a kid. It's like, he's this kid doing a part that he normally does not do, a part that he normally does not sing. I mean, he does, but later in the song when with different lyrics, so he had to learn this and figure out the lyric changes. And this is not his first language. And he met the moment. So I was so proud because, a moment like that, it's big. I understand what moments like that look like and feel like. So, if he was nervous, I was like, probably I was just as nervous for him. And, it surprised me to see that he was singing Jungkook's part. But at the same time, I'm like, this kid has nerve. So he met the moment and in front of millions of people.
That's beautiful. He met the moment just like you did. And I really love that story about going to the back of the theater and gaining that perspective. That's a whole new way to view performance because I've performed quite a bit myself too. I'm a singer.
Oh, wonderful.
And I also have a background in theater. Yeah. So it's very daunting though when you're up on stage, even after rehearsing a song so many times and knowing it like the back of your hand, feeling that light on you and seeing the people in front of you. It's really helpful to think about the people back there and how different it all looks when everyone's kind of on the equal playing field.
And one thing that the producer of Les Mis, Cameron McIntosh, because we had worked together pretty recently on another show called Stephen Sondheim's Old Friends. We did it in the West End and we did it on Broadway. And one thing he did say is, as we were starting the process of tech and previews, he said, don't forget people who are paying those cheap seats. Yeah, he himself was a theater usher, so he completely understands. And he's probably had to usher folks to the really high seats, all the way in the back, all the way at the top.
Yeah, and I think that's something that BTS truly understand too, even going back to V, going back to Kim Taehyung and the way that he was ready for that moment. They know all the people at the top of the stadium are waiting for every single lyric they're going to sing just as much as the people down on the floor. And I think that's something you really get to witness with their performances.
Yeah, they give so much importance to the people who are in the back as well as the people who are right in front of them. Yeah, and I'm sure that they also have gotten that same exact note. Don't forget the people who are in the back because they saved for those tickets. They've waited so many months to be able to see you. So throw your heart at them as well. And you do feel it, even sitting up there.
You do. You really do. And since you mentioned the World Cup performance, I noticed that you posted several times on your story about dance leader JHope, him being in that captain mode.
Yes! Oh my God. The dance captain, I had a feeling you were going to ask this question today.
I had to.
I have a feeling I think that there is a behind the scenes perspective that performers are going to have with regards to the dance captain, or in J-Hope's case, the dance leader. They are the smartest people in any production. Literally. They are the ones who are normally in the position of being a swing. For those who don't know what a swing is, they're the ones who basically fill in for a member of the ensemble who either is sick or who has to fill in for one of the principals or one of the leads. In any case, if there is an empty spot, they have to fill it. And they know exactly what those formations are. They know who's supposed to be on what number. They know what formations are supposed to look like. So who's standing on 1, who's standing on 3, who is stage right, who is stage left. Also keeping in mind what the lighting specials look like and who needs to be standing at a very specific spot in order for that piece of light to hit them exactly right. As a performer, I have sometimes been half lit because I'm in the wrong spot. So the dance captain will be like, move 6 inches to your left and you will be well lit. So watching J-Hope, I was like, God, something's, I feel like something's going to happen as I'm watching this video. And I'm hearing that the bars that are leading up to Dynamite, is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? Are they going to make it? So you're watching all of this happen. I think the member of the crew that might have put them in the wrong spot realized the mistake and put them in the correct one. And you could immediately see his whole body go from incredibly stressed out to relaxed, like he let go of whatever this tension is. And then you see him recalibrate because now he's going to perform. So it's like, how many brains are in this guy's head? Because you have to know what every person's formation is. He has to know what their starting point is according to whatever rehearsal happened that morning. He knows who's in what mark. He knows everybody's marks because that's part of his job. So the dance captain is like the smartest, most gifted person in a production. They have to be able to do everything well. It takes a very unique brain to be able to do that. I have so much respect for this guy. I have so much respect for every dance captain and swing. I mean, there were times when there would be absent members. That moment when Suga had surgery. And so
Yes. The
obviously
snowman.
the snowman. So sure, they had to always leave a space, but I'm sure in his mind is, how do we leave a space, a very obvious gap, but how do we still make it look good for six people to do this number and make it make sense? So I'm sure that he's been in discussion with choreographers on how to pull that off. Obviously, the fan base understood exactly what was happening, but he still had the responsibility of making sure that in performance, it all looked like it made so much sense.
Definitely. Absolutely. And since you just mentioned Suga, I also noticed that you said Min Yoongi is kind of like your spirit animal. So I'm wondering, is that artistically with his music, his personality? What is it about him that encompasses?
The thing that I love, though, is how bracingly honest he is. I think, well, one, he's a Pisces, as am I. But,
Me
there are folks
too.
who will be like, oh, you too, when is your birthday?
March 14th, Pi Day.
March 14th. Happy Pi Day. Not going to forget that now, I don't think. But yeah,
Aw.
mine's the 22nd of February. And so when I heard that, okay, oh, Pisces, okay, this could go any number of ways. He could, be the type that hides in the dark like an angler. Him putting sunscreen on at night just sent me over the edge. Like a fish, you could either be a guppy or a great white. And there are times when he displays both, where he's this really calm and serene where he's very calm and serene on the surface. We've seen him in times of strife, in stuff that he has had to overcome and deal with throughout his career. So there are times when you will see him, blinders on, airport, not talking to anybody. And I'm like, absolutely. That is absolutely the way to do it. And then you will see him on stage. He's this clown. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And then you look at all of the August D stuff that he has released, and it's like, this makes so much sense. And it's clearly angry and emotional, and he'll allow himself to dig deep into the depths of his own psyche, his own trauma, and be very forthright and lay it all there. And for him to say that the trilogy is complete, I have many mixed feelings about this.
Me too.
As for the spirit animal part, I think it's just that you don't always know what you're going to get from me. Even on any given day, I don't know what I'm going to be giving you. It depends on the kind of day I've had. It depends on how I woke up that morning. No one's going to know. But I'm generally it's a Pisces thing. I'm generally really easy and calm, very serene until I'm not. I will unapologetically cut people off from my life. And I will do it without any guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And without any, thinking back on it. It's like, no, you're not in my life anymore. Goodbye. I wish you the best and have a nice life. I just can't be in it. And I have told people that exact thing. Have a nice life, but I can't be part of it. And when I've told other friends this, they're like, girl, you can smite. I said, yes, I can. So I look at Min Yoongi. If he decides to cut you off, he will do it very quickly, very precisely. And I love that for him. I love that this is just who he is. And if you wrong him, then prepare to have him cut you out of his life.
Absolutely.
And I love that he doesn't apologize for that. I love it. I love that he's just very honest about his feelings and that those airport walks are fast.
Yes, very quick.
Very quick. And that's pretty much how I walk at airports. So not because, I feel like somebody's going to try and stop me. It's just, I live in what is possibly the fastest city in the world. So I have places to be and I'd like to get there as efficiently as I can. But yeah, so as for my mixed feelings regarding the August D trilogy being over, I there's a part of me that feels like, oh, he's healed. How wonderful for him. And I'm glad he's able to channel all his feelings, in a positive direction. But at the same time, I'm like, is it really that healthy that it's all just positive from here on out? So my thought is, now with BTS being, they're not really boys anymore. They're men. clearly they are men, they are grown men. And, the rules of K-pop don't really apply to them where it's supposed to be always just so happy. And that's, and even they reference that in J-Hope's line in Normal. And so I think that they will find avenues, especially him, for more bracing honesty, but as part of BTS. So I think that Suga and August D, I think, in theory, I think they're going to be more melded with one another. He's done the "Are you ready?" yells, and it sounds like it's August D that's there.
You hear it.
And
yeah,
I'm like,
you hear the growl.
and it's like, oh boy, that's there it is. So
There it
that
is.
makes
Yeah.
me happy that he still exists.
Me too, because it's really hard to kind of come to terms with the fact that the trilogy is over. Because I do want him to be happy. I want him to be at peace. But at the same time, it's that music, like the really emotional mental health music, but also like the rage and just like getting those feelings out that have helped me through a lot of my own Pisces struggles and having to cut people off and just letting them go when it's not healthy anymore, not conducive. So I think the music serves its purpose. And if he does ever want to reopen it, I'm here for it. If he wants to combine it with Suga, that's okay too.
I'm so here for it. If he decides that, sorry, I lied, there's an encore, then yeah, I'm gonna be downloading everything. Yeah, that's the thing I do like about him, is that you pretty much will know where you stand. I think with any Pisces. Bernadette Peters is also Pisces, so we celebrate our birthday 6 days apart, and she is one of the most kind people. But yeah, it's do not cross a Pisces. They say Scorpio is it can be pretty brutal. It's like, no.
You haven't
because
met the
we
right
only
Pisces.
Look nice.
Exactly. It's true.
We only look nice until we're not. That is what that is.
That is what that is. Until someone takes advantage of the kindness is when things change.
Yes. Then prepare to not even hear the words goodbye.
That's exactly it. On a lighter note, I do have a fun question for you because, as we know, you are a Disney princess. You have the beautiful voice of Princess Jasmine and Mulan. So I'm wondering, if each of those princesses had a BTS bias, who would it be and why?
I think all of them would love Jin because Jin loves them all.
Yeah, good choice.
I think he has said, I don't know which interview it is, or if I'm just hearing it through the fandom, that he loves the Disney princesses. So yeah, so if there is like some sort of Disney something celebration where you gather or the voice talent for all the princesses, that he gets to see it, that he gets to meet the people whose voices, grant if he listened to the English versions of all of this music, that he gets to meet the women that have made these performances a part of his life and why he just gravitated towards them. So yeah, I think all of them for that reason. Of course, that wouldn't be true. Jasmine would, I don't know who Jasmine would choose, to be honest. Somebody who's really headstrong and as tough as she is. That's something to think about. Like, who would be her Aladdin in that group, for example? Or Mulan, who, and there is a lot about her. So she'd need somebody who wasn't insecure. So I think her bias would probably be Namjoon.
That makes sense. It's a good choice.
Yeah. But who knows? I'd have to ask Ming-na who she thinks Mulan would like, if she's aware of BTS at all. She's another person to ask. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. To get that second confirmation. But since you did mention Namjoon, I know that RM's Right Place, Wrong Person is one of your favorite solo albums.
It might be my favorite. I love Golden. And of course, I love Layover. But I don't know how many repeat listenings I have had of Right Place, Wrong Person. And I will get into disputes with some of my other friends who are like, no, Indigo is chef's kiss, da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, Indigo is great. But there's something about Right Place, Wrong Person. And then also to tie in with his interview with on fashion neurosis. And it made me start thinking, I mean, it just how much of an outlier he ever thought himself to be within the K-pop industry. And now with the global industry, does he think of himself as an outsider? Does he think of himself as a part of it? Here's the thing. I think every artist feels like already they're not a part of much of anything. I think a lot of artists feel that. And this is all artists, regardless of the art form. But he is fortunate. I mean, any performing artist realizes very early on that this is a team effort and you can never really do any of this alone. So if he feels like an outsider or an outlier, the people around him probably will at least give him community. But the thing about that album that just set me over the edge was it was genre bending. It was, yes, there is hip hop, but then there's like stuff that didn't sound like hip hop. There were all of these collaborations with all of these different artists and just the sound. And of course, the profuse use of profanity. I'm like, okay, he's going to leave a mark with this one. And it's not always going to be friendly, but it's going to be honest. And I really liked that. And I think because of that album, I think all of them everybody was bringing something to the table that was just not going to be anything like what they had previously done. This might tie in actually more with Dark and Wild than anything from, HYYH or even Map of the Soul. It's like, yeah, I'll go back to that. I think that might be until Arirang came out. I think Dark and Wild was like my favorite BTS album.
Mine too. It's my favorite of all time.
It's like, look here, dragged me by the throat into that album.
Yeah.
It's
Don't even get me started.
My God. That one. That's like the one.
That is the one. That's absolutely the one. I mean, look here at Namjoon's voice. Like just his voice, his verse.
It's just the sound where his voice sits. It's like, okay, this is a dude. This is a grown dude, even though he wasn't really a grown dude yet. But,
but he was an intellect.
So young, but incredible intellect. And when you mentioned on Fashion Neurosis that he doesn't read books as often as he did when he was younger, I'm like, can relate. Absolutely. I was devouring, I think, 3 books a week when I was doing Miss Saigon in London. And now I struggle with even one in like 3 months. I think it's just the world grabbing your attention and, parenthood responsibilities and just navigating through life. So like, that's the most relatable thing you've said today.
Absolutely. No, he felt you right there. He's like, I see you,
gosh,
Lea.
yes.
Yeah, for sure. And since Dark and Wild was one of your favorite albums before Arirang, I'm curious, do you have a favorite BTS song? I know that's like a hard question.
Okay. That is an unfair question.
I know. Don't ask me it either.
I know. I don't know that there is a favorite song, but I will. I mean, I love Dionysus. I love that. I loved all the performances of that. I think any of the music that really looks long and hard at the human condition and about a person's psyche, things like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, things like Fake Love, Black Swan. Oh my God, Black Swan, where they, and it was like, is Agnes DeMille in there? I mean, or was it Martha Graham? There was just this really famous dancer who had mentioned that there are 2 times that a dancer dies. The first time is when they can't dance anymore. I know I'm paraphrasing and I know that I'm misquoting, but that, Suga's lyric is something about my first death. I'm like, oh.
Yes, that would be my first death. I've been always afraid of.
So I think every artist, if they listen to that song, will find themselves able to relate to that lyric because there's this question of what happens if I am unable to create the art anymore for whatever reason, whether it's physical ability or just the drying out of the creative juices. Like what happens then, does this mean that I die? And so it's an interesting question to ask. So I think those songs might be, anything that looks at and asks these questions where it's not just bubblegum pop to make you feel great, but when it has a reflective quality in the song and where it asks questions and not easy questions. So Yeah. So I think those ones kind of pop out.
Definitely. Those are really good choices. I also gravitate to the very much so intellectual, introspective, philosophical songs that BTS have released because there's so many of them. And the Wings
Yeah.
album with the Demian tie-ins, like there is so much to
Oh,
dissect there
and
too.
from Map of the Soul 7, also Jungkook's My Time, where he reflects upon having no childhood because of this dream that he wanted to fulfill. I mean, it's like, oh, okay. It's, and then like, wow, he did not have, he had an early childhood, but a lot of those formative adolescent years growing into being a man, it was spent with these six other men. And so any misstep from any one of them, who knows what trajectory he would have ended up following. But because by all accounts, it seems as though everyone really took such good care of him, knowing this responsibility and how young and impressionable someone of that age is, and in a business like show business, which is not easy, because it can just chew you up and spit you out if you're not careful. So for me to be able to see them reach this level of success and for him to still have his head screwed on right, to be able to reflect and look back and be able to come out with a song that, it asks the questions and lays it out so honestly. It's like he took a note out of Suga's book in being just very truthful in the delivery of that.
And because I value your time and I don't want to take up too much of your
Speaking of time,
day, speaking of time, my time was the perfect segue. I do have just two more questions for you, and then I promise I will free you. Set Me Free Part 2,
okay.
Jimin style. You're going to be in DreamWorks' Forgotten Island, and you're starring
Yes.
alongside so many incredible Filipino talents. So that's remarkable. You have her, Liza Soberano, Dolly De Leon, Manny Jacinto, there we go, Sophia from Cat's Eye, SB19, who are going to be in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
And Beanie also, who are going to be in the
Yes.
soundtrack.
There we go. Thank you. That's who I was missing. And Beanie as well. So when you were doing Miss Saigon in 1989, could you have ever envisioned a Hollywood animated blockbuster driven entirely by Filipino voices? It's just beautiful.
Absolutely not. No. I don't think that my 18-year-old self could have imagined a moment like this. Yeah. So to now being able to see it and to be a part of it, and that there are all these incredible artists who are in the film as well as in the soundtrack, it's just mind-blowing to me that it's happening. And thus far, I think the movie has been screened at Annecy, which I think is this animation festival. And they did this some time ago. And I was getting all of the joyful news that it was really well received and that it got a 5-minute standing ovation. And I am like, oh my God. And this is that moment and it's happening. I think, going back to say K-pop Demon Hunters, I don't think anyone who was creating that movie ever thought that even that moment was possible and that it was going to happen. And now we have this. And someone told me a long time ago that the more specific you are about the art that you create, the more universal it actually is. So I think the themes of female friendship and fantasy and folklore and a villain who is frightening. When I first saw the artwork, I was like, oh God, this is crazy. And also all of this music, it's going to be something really, really special. So I'm really looking forward to its release.
I'm looking forward to it too. I can't wait to see this come to life. There's just so many incredible human beings who are part of it. And I feel like something that is so deeply entrenched in culture in that way, it's going to move the masses once it's for public consumption.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean,
yeah.
You only hope for the best. You cross your fingers, you pray, you do the best that you can. You create work that hopefully speaks to people. And then you go from there. that's really all you can hope for. I hope that the boys get to see it. It's probably going to get dubbed in Korean. And I know, as with so many other DreamWorks movies. And so I hope they get to see it. And I hope
Me
that they are
too.
terrified.
I'm sure they will be. And I have a feeling Jungkook, he would be all over that if he has the opportunity. He loves his
If
animated
he starts singing
films.
along with this music, it's going to be like, and we've reached him.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have chills just thinking about it. That'd be such a dream.
That would be so wonderful.
Speaking of dreams, this is my last question. To close out, I am borrowing Yoongi's iconic question from Sushi Ta, his little drinking show that he did before he went into the military.
Of course I know that. Yeah.
Classic. So
I hope it comes back. It's such a good show.
Oh, me too. I love it. I loved all the guests on the show too. It was just spectacular. Really good. But you have inspired generations of creatives across the globe. And his last question he always asks everybody is, what is their current dream? So I'm wondering, what is your current dream? It could be big or small.
My current dream? I don't know. And I mean, it's kind of dumb to say that, because I will always be dreaming things, but this year has delivered things beyond any imagining that I could have dreamed for myself. I mean, a star on the Walk of Fame was not in any bingo card. Being able to play the villain in an animated movie where you get to hear my voice. Well, kind of, sort of. I'm sure it's going to go through a lot of processing to really make her frightening. And to see a Philippine-centered animated film where it features a lot of our folklore and legend and fantasy and, the scary monsters that hide under the bed, so to speak. Being able to see BTS live during Festa, that was something I did not expect would happen, but planned it and it did. Probably to be able to see them eye to eye and be able to say thank you. That would probably be the one thing I would dream about, is to be able to say, you've been able to lift me out of a dark spot in my life. And I just wanted to be able to say thank you for that and for all of your music.
It's a beautiful dream. And I hope that dream comes true. I believe that it can very soon.
I don't know about very soon, but someday, I hope.
Someday. And you'll be ready. It'll be the right moment.
It'll be the right moment.
Yes. Right place, right person.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Lea, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for joining us on K-All. It has been a complete honor to have you.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. And I had seen a couple of your previous interviews, and I love how thoroughly researched they are, the questions that you ask, and how unguarded the interviewees, more and more unguarded they become. And it's just lovely to watch.
Thank you so much. It's just honestly such a gift to have you here. I'm such a huge fan, and I hope I didn't appear too starstruck throughout our conversation.
No, you were totally totally fine. Everything was fine. Everything was great.
Amazing. Wonderful. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And that concludes this episode of K-All. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for all of Lea's upcoming, very exciting things that she has in store for this year. I will be linking all of her socials in the description below, as well as her website. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye, everyone.